Hi, I'm Daniel, and today I'll be talking about violence in the media, and my major claim is that violence has a negative effect on society and does indeed have a distinct influence on people and their decisions. My first subclaim is that media violence influences children and young adults to make poor decisions. For example, when kids copy things on TV that they think is funny or okay, they end up having dire consequences, like the 5-year-old who set his sister's bed on fire with a cigarette lighter, killing her and burning down his house, or the girls who set their house on fire using an aerosol can and a lighter, both of which told the authorities that they got their ideas from the TV show Beavis and Butthead. Also, media influence has a distinct correlation with teen deaths and injuries as documented by accounts all over the world. Like in England, after a TV show portrayed a genie comically slapping someone on both sides of the head, children all over England copied the action and suffered perforated eardrums, and which started the slapping craze known around the hospitals in England. In another instance, a 14-year-old boy bear-hugged 6-year-old Tiffany Eunuch, and imitating the popular wrestling move, dropped her on the ground, which instantly killed her. And elsewhere in England, a Scottish teenager inspired by the movie Braveheart yelled out "freedom" and attacked a British schoolboy for his accent and repeatedly kicked him in the head. Another way that media violence influences young adults in a negative way is that some films become so ingrained in their minds that they become persuaded to copy the very violent movies. Like when the movie Natural Born Killers came out, there were various accounts of young adults who went on mass killing sprees across the country, dressed as the main characters, like the Southern Georgia couple who they not only dressed as the main characters, but they also started calling themselves by the names. And they went on a crime spree that consisted of theft, robbery, kidnapping, and murder. And it wasn't just them who went across the United States. It was there are many similar accounts just like that. On a related note, the release of Clockwork Orange sparked similar reactions, where kids who admitted that they were obsessed with the movie dressed as the main characters and committed violent crimes, like the 17-year-old who kicked a 60-year-old to death, a 16-year-old who savagely beat a younger child, and a group of guys who raped a girl who was camping in the woods as they hummed to the tune of Singing in the Rain, which were all inspired by the movie. My second main point is that media violence not only promotes social violence, but fear as well. Cop shows and crime reports make us fearful of other people, afraid to go out at night. In 1998, Professors Singer, Slovak, Frierson, and York surveyed 2,000 Ohio students, grades 3 through 8. They reported that incidents of psychological trauma increased in proportion to the number of hours watched each day. And George Gerbner has conducted the longest-running study of television violence, and his research concludes that as people's perception of the world comes to match that of TV, they become more passive, anxious, and fearful, something he likes to call mean world syndrome. He finds that these people who watch more TV are more likely to estimate the risk of being victimized by crime, believe their neighborhoods are unsafe, believe fear of crime is a serious personal issue, and assume that the crime rate is increasing even when it is not. My third subtopic is that violence in the media increases aggression among the populace. Leonard Aron and Raoul Huseman conducted a study at the University of Illinois on children at age 8 and 10 years later at age 18. They found that the more violent the TV shows that the 8-year-olds watched influenced their behavior to become more violent, both at age 8 and 10 years later when they were 18. And they also found that when they studied them 10 more years later when they were 30, that the children who watched those violent TV shows were consistently more likely to commit spousal abuse or child abuse, suggesting that television influence on aggression is accumulative. And Professors A. Badura, D. Ross, and S. A. Ross studied the interactions of children who watched violent acts on television and in the real world and found that they were more likely to hit one another or break toys while they were seen playing with each other. Now, of course, it'd be irresponsible of me to group everyone together and say that everyone learns the same way, everyone absorbs the information the same way, and that everyone acts the same way. It just isn't true. However, I'm only trying to point out that the media does influence the population to an extent. Just because someone on TV says to do something doesn't mean that we all go running to do it. Only some of us do. Some people can't handle the responsibility of fiction and end up going off the deep end. Others argue that violence actually acts as a suppressor of our own violent tendencies and works to keep us sane. I believe these are all valid points, but I would like to conclude and say that in general, media violence does have a negative effect on society on the basis that it influences children and young adults to make poor decisions, it increases fear, and it increases aggression. Thanks.
All right, Daniel, you identified the topic, but your claim, your proposition, doesn't actually use the topic in it. You've got kind of a different statement that goes with it, so we're having to put two things together there. But I know ultimately what the point is, but there should be a simpler declarative sentence there. There's no setup of what the structure is going to be, but there's very good signposting of the structure while you're speaking, so I know where you are. Just don't forget that the audience needs to be able to anticipate where you're going as well, and so you do want to try and give us a preview of what the content's going to be as well as the signposting when you're going along there. You've got lots of examples in that whole first section, and again, I don't doubt any of the examples, but I didn't get a source citation on any of the examples. On the quotes, I got a lot of source citations on that, and there's authoritative information on that. There's not really a lot of statistical information, and although a couple of the research projects seems to suggest statistical relationships, we didn't get any of those numbers introduced into the argument. On the generalizations, I thought you did a pretty good job. You do offer some qualifiers on the claims, suggesting that you're not, not everybody's influenced the same way, but clearly some people are influenced, and I thought that that's a good way of strengthening that argument. You have limited audience contact. I think you speak very smoothly, and there's good variety in your voice. If I'm just looking down while I'm listening to you, it sounds pretty effective, but when I look up, you're doing a lot of reading, and you're not engaging the audience, so that'll be something that you'll want to work on. All right, thank you.